It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielson and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream. It is Nielson, it is Gazzola, it is game day as the Oilers take on the Montreal Canadiens yet again, which means we are in our game day duds. Dustin and Tommy. Tommy, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm always good. Great to do this with you. As always, I'm pumped up. Let's go.
You're intimidating even me, Tommy, and I'm a very tough guy, so that scared me a little bit there. The Oil Stream is brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, our presenting sponsor with 12 locations, 7 of them smack dab right in Edmonton. They got you covered on Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, DoorDash, drive-through. Any way you can get your hands on that Popeye's chicken sandwich, you do it, son. How's that for a sell job, Tommy?
Scary.
Yeah,
no, I'm scared. Look at you
turning
turning the tide. You completely reversed the fortunes.
A couple of intimidating guys right here today, if you didn't already know it. If you're watching, I'm repping the Crack Pack today, by the way. That's my Crack Pack shirt underneath the suit. That's
Is that
great.
from Carbon Hitter?
Yeah, that's Branko. Yeah,
Branko.
He makes a ton of shirts. It's great. If you need a shirt made, check out our buddy Branko, Carbon Hitter on Twitter. If he's making car shirts about hockey card bits on the radio, he'll make anything for you. So that's kind of nice. All right, if you are watching right now on the live stream, D Cards is in and says, imagine missing out on all 4 Oilers cups. And then he's got sad face. But Cards, you got all of these, didn't you? He got them all.
Yeah.
You got them all.
Unless this has been a sham the entire time and he's just been pranking us with the great Photoshops. But I gave in and I thought this guy loves the Popeyes Oilers meal and he got all 4 cups, unless he's just totally messing with us, which would hurt. That would hurt, D-Cards.
Yeah, let us know the details here, buddy. Like, did you come up one short? I can take care of it for you. Like, we'll get that sorted out. This is what we do. We're problem savers. Yeah.
We know a guy.
Yeah. Did I say problem savers? I meant problem solvers. But Tommy, we know people. We know Popeye's people. That's just how it works.
That's right.
So that's nice. So let us know. If you have any questions here on this game day edition, if you're watching live, fire them our way. We'll get to a few of those questions if we have time as we work our way through this episode today. Let's start with your Ken Morrison Remax Excellence question of the day. Brought to you by Ken Morrison. Visit his website, kenrmorrison.com. He's been a realtor for 20 years. He'll get you taken care of. Whether you're buying, whether you're selling, Tommy, he'll get you taken care of.
He is a seasoned pro and a good dude all around. Can't say enough good things about Ken Morrison. Bo Show.
I don't know if this is his private cell number, but it's the one that's in all of his advertising. So I don't know if we could all just text him and be like, wow, amazing episode of the Oil Stream today. But the number is 780-993-4815. If you are looking to move some real estate or you want to look for a new place to move into, why not? Let's do that with Ken Morrison. It is your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day. Tom Gazzola, what do you got, buddy?
All right, Dusty, here's the question of the day. It's a little bit of a long view here, but I'm curious.
Okay.
After what we saw from the Canucks against the Leafs the last couple of games, can another team in the North, namely the Oilers or the Jets, take first place in the North Division? If one of those teams does, and the Oilers wind up playing either the Habs or the Leafs, do you think that they're able to get out of that series and move on to the second round easier than if they were to play the Winnipeg Jets, like we assume they're going to play in the first round?
So would it be easier to beat the Leafs than the Jets?
Or the Habs? What if the Oilers go on a run and finish first?
Yeah, Oilers go on a run.
Hey, big win tonight, and all of a sudden they're, 2 points back of what? I think they're within range of the Leafs. They're right there.
Can I power rank them for you? Is that okay? Can I power rank the playoff matchups? I love ranking things. I would love to power rank this for you. Heck, maybe we can draft these 3 teams, Tommy. Who knows? Okay, so this is a good question because they all have their buddy. You always ask great Ken Morrison question of the days, and we're only three episodes in here with Kenny on board. So, okay. I'm going to try to talk my way through this. This is how it's going to go down.
You're good at this.
Montreal has shown the ability to contain the big boys outside of a 10-minute stretch at the end of the 6th game when McDavid finally took over. I mean, that could be an entire series. I mean, you could have an entire series where those guys have trouble generating offense. We just saw it in a series of games against the Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price, if healthy, played well against the Oilers. Doesn't intimidate me as much as a Connor Hellebuck would. But at the same time, I think that Montreal blue line could cause some issues unless McDavid decides to have his way with him like he did at the end of the third period.
Right.
Okay, so then you get Winnipeg, who does have, I think, the goaltending advantage no matter who they're going up against in the first round. As good as Mike Smith has been, Connor Hellebuck won the Vezina last year. He's been very good again this year. But Winnipeg has no problem opening things up and exchanging chances. And I think that's something that the Oilers can take advantage of. Then you get the Maple Leafs, who the Oilers have had some issues against this year, but have still beaten them, 3 times, Tommy? They got 3 wins against the Oilers this year?
Yep.
So it's not like
the Oilers 3-5-1 against the Leafs.
3-5-1 against Toronto. And Toronto goes into the postseason with by far the most question marks between the pipes. It's not even close. Yeah. So I don't know. This is such a good question. Nuts. I would rank them. I'd probably still play Montreal first. Winnipeg second, Toronto third. I think that's how I would go. But it's close because Montreal prior to that last period, I don't know if Montreal would have been my answer, but if you look at the two teams on paper, if the Oilers can play a gritty enough game against Montreal, there's no chance Montreal should outscore Edmonton in a best-of-7 series.
And yet they've had the Oilers number all season until that 10 minutes. And you could also ask, hey, in that 10 minutes and the way the Oilers played the Habs the other night, and if they play them again similarly tonight, could you say they've broken through on Montreal and kind of broken the camel's back and they're over that mental hump or whatever it is? And then on top of that, you get the Jets. And you're right, the Oilers can go run and gun with them, and they generally win those games given their record against Winnipeg. But what if Winnipeg changes its style against the Oilers and tries to play above the Oilers, as Struddy likes to say, and that we've seen Toronto and Montreal do effectively against Edmonton? That could blow the series in a completely different direction. And then if the Oilers end up playing the Leafs, you would think logically that there's been limited success there. Yeah, they got 3 wins in those 9 games and an OT loss. Would the Oilers have to change their style against the Leafs and see if it leads to better results? Like, I honestly, Dusty, at this point, I quite frankly don't care who finishes where in the North Division. Any matchup, I think, is a toss-up. I think these first 2 rounds are going to be absolutely nuts because that's just what the North has been. And anything that we've seen in these, 9-game, 10-game series, I feel like it's almost to the point where you could just throw them out the window. And I say this thinking that the Oilers, after that win, it reminded me of a win against LA with about 10 games left 3 seasons ago, or 4 seasons of the 16-17 season, where the Kings were the thorn in the Oilers' side that year. They beat them 2-0, and it just felt like there was this aha moment for the Oilers. It capped off a 4-game winning streak. They lost the next game, then they won a bunch in a row. Then they lost to LA, then they won their last game, and then had a really strong showing in the postseason. It feels like the Oilers might be surging here. If they get another win tonight, they might be surging. And what if they just march right to first place in the North? It's such a toss-up. And I was wondering that today. I'm like, is there an actual matchup that you go, hey, I'm pretty confident Edmonton's getting through that series? No. In my books, no.
It's a good question. There's really no wrong answer, and I'm not sure there's a right answer either. And it's that same way. It's not just an Oilers thing. It's just, if they were having this topic in discussion in Winnipeg, probably the same thing. If they're having it in Toronto, probably the exact same thing. Like, you think Toronto wants to go up against the Montreal Canadiens in the first round where you have Carey Price, you could possibly go in and steal a series against their arch rival? If Toronto this year goes down in a series to the Montreal Canadiens, they will have Kyle Dubas's head in Toronto. They just will. It's a good question, buddy. It's a really good question.
The crazy thing is we saw David Riddick last night, and that one, what was it, Pearson goal was just disgustingly
It was
bad.
going wide.
Yeah, I know. And Jack Campbell, like, you're hearing him trying to be accountable, but he's like, I got to be better. Those goals were unacceptable. And Kelly Rudy kind of talked about it, like, don't be down on yourself, man. You set a record, and you've had a great season. But now all of a sudden, there's a massive question mark. Like, is Freddie Anderson, is he going to be okay? If he is okay, like, what level of Freddie Anderson are we seeing going into the postseason? It's just like all of a sudden you have this stacked lineup, but then nobody between the pipes that can make a save. Scary, man. It's crazy. This last 3 weeks that we're going to watch here, who knows? And that was something I was thinking about on my way to the rink today, and then on my walk back, coffee in hand, shades on, and just cruising, baby.
You're like Neo in the Matrix if he needed to have a coffee. That's what you're like, for sure.
Italian Polak Neo.
McDavid Mania says, honestly, if we play like we did on Monday, it doesn't matter who we play. And good statement. I called in because I was so excited about that Puljujarvi goal. I called into your post-game show. Craig Button was listening, by the way. He's just, Dusty, I was driving back from Edmonton after working the game for TSN. I heard you call into the post-game show. You need to go to bed, buddy. I was just like, oh, okay. Well, sorry, Craig. But like,
wow,
that feeling around the team in the third period against Montreal, if they do go on a run, and you look at moments in the season to go back and say, that's the moment it clicked. The third period against Montreal on Monday, April 19th would probably be my answer, Tommy.
I'm with you. And that's why on the postgame show, I thought of it immediately. I was like, that totally reminds me about that LA game, late March 2017, where I was like, man, they got over the hump against the Kings, and you're like, all right, this team is finding another gear here and is elevating itself. And I remember being on the bench. I used to have to do those post-game walk-off interviews that were in-house. And I was sitting there with Jordan Eberle, and he's like, Tom, this is effing nuts. And I'm like, dude, like, finally, his first year was my first year at Oilers TV. And he's like, you're covering the playoffs. I'm like, you're going to the playoffs, dude. And we rattled off like 2 or 3 questions. And he looked at me after, he's like, I couldn't even hear anything. You just, that energy, that momentum, that feeling, the way the team was playing, the way the crowd reciprocated, it almost had elements of that the other night. And it's too bad the fans weren't there, because you were watching that game. I was watching that game in the building. It was excellent. It was excellent hockey. And I hope we see the same thing tonight.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see. Maybe the Oilers, use that momentum and actually have a convincing victory tonight against Montreal. Okay, a couple of things to get to as far as this game goes tonight. Could we see a new look top 6 today at practice? And Tommy, you were there, and we've got some projected lines from Rashad because it wasn't a full skate. It was an optional, but there were a lot of guys there. McDavid, Yamamoto, and Nugent Hopkins all in the same color today. Would you expect the top 6 to be McDavid, Yamo, Nuge, then Draisaitl with Puljujarvi and Kahun? What do you think?
I don't mind those combinations, and if especially considering what we saw for 50 minutes the other night, where it was a tight, checking, tough hockey game. Maybe you beef up the line with Draisaitl down the middle with Puljujarvi. You got a couple of big bodies there. Then you got Kahun, who, by the way, Kahun doesn't back down. The offensive results or lack thereof, it's not for a lack of trying, and he doesn't play a ton of minutes. I want to point that out. Like, I expect a little bit more from him this year, but not a ton more. That's an intriguing look. And then Nugent Hopkins going back and being with McDavid and Yamamoto. If McDavid's flying and Nugent Hopkins is solid and picks it up 5-on-5, Yamamoto seems to be playing a little bit better. I like that look too. And by the way, Dusty, just going off of jersey colors at practice today, that's kind of where Rashad got that. And him and I were talking, and we're like, what are we seeing from these lines? Because there were some guys not out there, and it was kind of an optional. Dave Tippett was watching from the stands, which is different for Dave Tippett. He decided to watch from up there. And he was non-committal too in his pregame availability after the skate, where he didn't really want to give away much. Maybe he's trying to play mind games with the Habs. Who knows? I'm not sure. But at this point, if you get Nugent Hopkins coming back, great. Wherever he slides in, great. If they as a group bring that same tenacity and energy and fight and compete, if you will, to tonight's game that they did on Monday, fine, whatever. I feel confident with whoever's out there, especially considering they were down a centerman pretty early in that game the other night.
Could it be a classic Tippett smoke screen? Dun, 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 dun. Find out tonight on the Don Wheaton and White pregame show on TSN 1260. Tommy, if now, and Michael 748-58055 on Twitter, which sounds like a bot account, but it's actually asking a question. I'm liking the chemistry JP has with McDavid, and he's a bigger body than Yamo. And you mentioned you and Rashog were talking about it today.
Yep.
If they do roll into the game tonight with McDavid between Yamo and Nuge, Draisaitl with Leon and Cahoon, obviously Tippett's doing it for a reason. What's the reason that you would go to that top six? What do you think is the end outcome that he's looking for here? And don't say get a win against the Habs. Like, what do you think? What are they trying to accomplish here? What's the overall bigger picture?
I think right away it makes me think of trying to fight fire with fire a little bit with the big defensemen that the Habs do have. Try to get inside, create more opportunities that way, especially with Draisaitl and Puljujarvi. And then like with McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, and Yamamoto, there's a speed factor there, and so less of the big boy hockey. That immediately comes to mind. Outside of that, I'm wondering if he's just trying something, experimenting. If that's the look that they do go with,
if it actually does come out, yeah.
Keep in mind, it's going to be interesting.
If it isn't that way, blame Rashog's projected lines to the TSN hockey email. Yeah. McDavid Mania is saying that Stoff said on his show, and Stoff actually watches this show. Well, he does his show.
Yes, but he does.
Stoff said they're going to go to the dry line, and then Archibald, McDavid, and Puljujarvi. So Nuge comes back in, and then that Archibald line stays together. Your thoughts if that is the top six we see tonight?
I don't know. Honestly, if that's so, you're saying Archibald, Puljujarvi with McDavid, right?
Yeah, and then Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, which Tippett has avoided for the most part this year.
Well, first of all, what? That line back together? I mean, people have been clamoring for it, especially when things were tough, but they haven't been. I mean, the Oilers are riding, an 8-game home winning streak, and they're coming off some big wins over Winnipeg and Montreal. Archibald's good. We talked about it on the Nielsen show this morning, too. He's good in small doses in spot duty on the top two lines. So maybe he brings that digging mentality and that ferocious tenacity. He was a little ball of hate, if you will, the other night. And then you got the big body of Puljujarvi and mixing his speed and the speed of McDavid. It honestly, to this point, feels like anything you throw out there might work. And if it doesn't, you just mix it up again. And we've seen a lot of that lately where it's like, we make a big deal about lines because it's fun and it's what we do. But I'm sitting there looking at this team going, yeah, okay. Like I could see why this line's out there together, or that guy seems to be playing well tonight. Why not put him with the big line, see if you get something going? It just feels like they're finding this rhythm where anything Tippett throws out there, everybody's going to compete and nobody's really being a passenger right now, to the point where I think Zach Kassian actually had a pretty good game the other night, and it was nice to see that too.
Big thank you to both Rashog and Stoff getting us projected lines so that we could debate both top sixes. That's just great content.
And watch both sets of lines just not happen tonight.
It's right? Nuge, McDavid, Puljujarvi, Draisaitl, Yamo, Cahoon, just like always. That could be what it is.
Exactly. Like that could be. Who knows?
We'll see how it plays out. Get confirmation when they take the ice for the skate before the game tonight. Okay, Kulikov on the ice with the main group. Tommy, who should be more worried about their job right now? Russell or Jones?
I think it's Jones easily.
Still think it's Jones, eh?
Absolutely. Again, veterans are generally going to win out most of the time when it's close, like who you're trying to pick to get in. And on top of that, although Jones has been playing better and he says he's finding his game a bit, we've seen glimpses of that, which is good. That's encouraging. There's been a couple of instances in the last couple of games where he's absolutely tossed some grenades to his D partners and Ethan Bear. And there was a couple passes where he was uncontested and he put it in Bear's feet. And then the Montreal came back and had it in the Oilers zone for a little bit. So although, there's been good signs from Jones, it hasn't been like, all right, he's completely play with this great confidence. He's making all the right plays. So I think it's absolutely Caleb Jones who would probably be the one that would be watching from the press level if and when Kulikov's ready to go, which sounds like it won't be till next week against Winnipeg. And that's fine. He's still finding his game. He's first full year in the National Hockey League, Dusty. That's just how it goes most of the time, and has been the tradition in the National Hockey League for years and years and years, in hockey in general.
All right, let's wrap up with a question that comes in from Karoon9. With Toronto Maple Leafs coming back down to earth and the Oilers within striking distance for first, do you think Holland regrets not doing more prior to the deadline, Tommy? What do you think?
I'm sure he wanted to do more, but I don't know if he regrets it, especially if his team that he's got right now is surging. Like I said, if they're making a big push in these last dozen games, end up taking first, what's the regret? First of all, they've had a good season. They continue to have a good season. Anything could happen in the postseason. Regret-wise, I'd probably say unlikely, but would he have wanted to have done more? Yeah, absolutely. And you saw look at the Jets and Kevin Cheveldayoff when he had his availability. He looked angry. I'm sure all of these guys were frustrated by it. So regrets, no. And overall, probably wanted to do more.
It's not like if Toronto would have been closer to the pack, the Oilers all of a sudden would have had a second and a third rounder this year to move. They still just didn't have the pieces to move to get it done. So I don't think there would be any regrets there. All right, Tommy, once again, 6 o'clock tonight on TSN 1260.
Yeah, 2-hour pregame show. One of these wonderful midweek 8 o'clock starts. All of a sudden, we've got to fill 2 hours, which obviously we'll have plenty to talk about.
Is this a doubleheader south of the border? Is that what the 8 o'clock starts for, or what?
Dude, I don't even know anymore.
It's the only game in the North. It doesn't make any sense.
There's 4 games tonight, so I don't know. The schedule. We've got another 3 o'clock midweek game coming up too in a couple of weeks against Montreal. I don't even know. The year of COVID has just been so bonkers. It's what time am I on? Okay. See you then.
All right, buddy. That's going to do it for another episode of The Oil Stream. If you've been watching on the live stream, please subscribe to the podcast. Just search The Oil Stream on all your podcasting platforms. Our presenting sponsor, Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Let's be honest. It's going to be the chicken sandwich of the playoff run 2021. Lock that in right now. It's your playoff chicken sandwich, Tommy.
Buddy, I'm going to be eating that for a pregame meal every game day during the postseason. Bring it on.
See you later, buddy.
See you, Dusty.